Hey, everybody. It is the 6th of April, 2023. This is Plutus PBL live coding. We get together every Wednesday and Thursday at 14:30 UTC to squash bugs and learn some new stuff together. And so that's exactly what we're going to do today. I'm excited to jump into this problem because it's actually, it's big enough that people are thinking about it in a variety of different ways, and it'll be good to take a look at it today. So without further ado, why don't we just jump right in? Hey, Martin.
Hey.
Heard you got a good bug for us.
Yeah, I sent my NFT from Gimbal Labs back and forth, but yeah, I couldn't get to the last step of connecting the two wallets.
Cool. Let's if you're willing to share your screen, I think this will be good for everybody to see the behavior that's happening right here.
Can see it?
Got it. Yep.
So it's
probably the first mastery assignment, build 2 transactions.
I'm not sure if it's here.
In between, it should be in between lessons 3 and 4, where you were checking if the wallets were connected.
Here?
This is good UI research. Yeah, on the left-hand side, in between lessons 3 and 4. I was thinking those should be a different color, those mastery assignments. I'm assuming it was this, yeah?
Yeah. So I have 2 addresses. So I have it now at this wallet. And the receive address is this one, right? So I fill this in. Does not hold.
Right.
Really?
And you expect it to because you have that token in this wallet.
Yeah, I should have.
So if you look at the
list.
token list, let's see if we can see it.
It's here.
Yeah, of course, there it is. And so this is an interesting behavior about Eternal, and it's a subject of some debate that's currently unresolved in how browser wallets should behave. Okay, Eternal, like Daedalus and like Yoroi, and like Nikhil was explaining before we went live, generates multiple addresses.
Oh.
And so here, this is like, if you've ever heard of that hierarchical deterministic wallet, that's what this is, right? You've seen address derivations in Game Changer. And this is probably relevant towards point of sale terminals too, right? What address exactly are we using? And so in this case, if you go back to your receive addresses,
I was not aware. Yeah, I thought it was every time different, but I didn't check it.
Well, look, what the first thing to notice is the very last digit in that address string right there after the copy icon, like it says M1852 1815 002.
Yeah, what is that?
That's the address derivation. Okay, 1852 and 1815 refer to the standards by which this address is derived. And I forget what the middle 2 numbers stand for, but it's
so it's the second one, right?
But it's that last one. Yeah, this is index 2 that could be derived from this path.
Yeah.
And if you go down below, it says show used additional addresses.
What? Oh man.
And you see how those
00, yeah, of course.
There it is, right?
Yeah.
Query that address in the same form.
Oh, that's a good one.
Hey, is there any way you guys could zoom in a little? Or it's really small. That's possible. Thanks.
Like this.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, that is better.
Uh-oh.
All right, so it must not be in that one. So what do we try next?
Oh my God. It's in this one. I'm certain. Yeah.
And now let's be detectives for a second. You sent this token away to your CLI wallet.
Yeah.
And then you went into Eternal and you said, give me a receive address. And what did Eternal show on the screen? It showed the second address, index 1.
Yeah.
That was the first one at the time that you hadn't used yet. And so that's why you sent it back there.
Yeah.
So the fix here, okay, it's kind of funny, but this is the best way for us to handle it for now. Okay, in Eternal, we just have to mess with a few settings. And I'm not satisfied with this solution. I just want to say that first. I would like for our applications to be able to handle this, but yeah, you know this already, right? So we want to go to single address mode.
I thought I said that one. It set itself back.
Maybe not save. Well, you still have to set the receive address. So now paste into where it says enter a receive address, your index 0.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't notice this. Oh, it's more complicated than I thought.
It's a tiny, right? But then once you do this step, now Eternal is going to behave more like Nami and only return tokens or show you the receiving address for this single address.
So I should put in this one.
That's right.
The 00.
That's right.
TRL at the end.
Oh, that's correct. That's the end of the address that is derived at index 00. All right. So the actual indexes aren't part of this address that we're used to seeing.
But my token is at index 1.
Perfect. So the next thing we got to do, right, now that you've started using this wallet, and this is going to apply to everybody who has done this so far, there's a nice little fix we can do. So in the settings, there's one more thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Down below, you see where it says enable send all?
Hey.
Did that not save? Let's just save that again.
It's a bug. Wallet settings updated.
It looks like it's not.
Settings. Let's go back again. No.
That's weird. Has anybody seen this bug before?
Maybe because I used other addresses already.
Could be. I guess maybe since we're trying to do the default, it doesn't force us to use that one.
Yeah, maybe it's defaulting too.
Okay. Well, so the other thing we want to do now is send all of your tokens back to this root address.
Yeah.
And down below, there's a toggle for enable send all.
Yeah.
Just turn that on for now. Obviously, there should be a warning there. You don't want to send all of your tokens to just any address.
I'm not sending it to Gimbal Labs. Oh.
Thank you, sir. But the quick fix here, if you have now spread out your tokens throughout many addresses, is you can funnel them all back to the root address.
Okay.
Now that this is enabled. So now just go build a transaction. Well, actually copy your receive address, right?
Yeah, this one.
That looks good. And then go to send, so we can send a transaction.
Send. All right.
Yeah. Drop your receive address there.
Yeah. Next.
Yeah. And now we should have the send
all.
Perfect.
Confirm. Oh, scary.
Everything.
Wow. All these buttons. It's all done, right? Next.
I think so. Yep. Yeah, it gives you the option to remove them that way.
Sometimes I'm a little bit overwhelmed with I was using Nami before, but it gave me transaction errors. So yeah, switch to Eternal. It works, but so many buttons.
It's really interesting. So I love using Eternal when I'm diagnosing why like a smart contract interaction is not working. But I agree. Like if I'm just trying to do things quickly, I still use Nami just because it's easy. So you can sign that transaction.
Yeah, I'm
And
looking for my password.
oh, nice. And you don't have to keep sharing here. But there is going to be, you will now have just a single UTXO in your wallet. Okay, so you'll need to split it again, right? Look at the output of this transaction.
Oh, right.
It's just one giant UTXO with all your tokens in it.
Yeah.
So now you'll want to split things up again.
Okay.
Fortunately, most tools that are built properly will be able to handle that. And if you're making transactions from this wallet, it shouldn't be a problem.
But do I have to do that now for it to work, or it's not necessary?
There's one, so you will have to set a collateral UTXO again. Okay.
Oh, of course.
One
So
more
I need
time
to,
in settings, you can do that step.
yeah, so it's going to make one, right? Collateral. But now it's but I
good.
need to.
I guess it did it. But is that your root address, the one that ends in WQT? Oh yeah, it is. Oh no. Oh, look at this. Okay.
No, it's not.
Right. Look at that index 10. Okay.
How this this impossible.
Yeah, okay. So I'm not sure why that's picking that one up right there.
Crazy.
Well, I mean, okay, for now, like see if you can continue with the assignment. I'll be curious
Yeah,
if
let's do
that
that.
collateral works. Yeah.
So receive address. This is the right one still.
Mhm.
Oh. Uh-oh, no.
And maybe that it's likely that that transaction wasn't confirmed yet. So if you go to your transactions tab in Eternal.
Oh, we're not there yet. Well.
Oh, just appeared, internal transfer.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So
It's
give it
still
another
low.
try. Yeah, it should be appearing. This query is pulling eventually from DB sync. But if it's showing up on Cardano scan, it should show up on the PPBL site.
So this should be the latest transaction, right?
That looks good. Self-transaction, right? You paid the fee. You would see
Sometimes,
the
here.
UTXO down below.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always have a trouble finding this one. Yeah.
Look at all
Seems
the
to,
inputs.
yeah.
And
Lots of
then one giant
inputs
output.
and one output. Yeah. Okay. So it's finding it.
Try one more time, and then there's an even better reason why this isn't working, and we'll look at that next as well.
Hey,
it is working now. Okay.
it is working. Cool.
We'll take it.
Yeah, I'm satisfied.
Oh. Yeah, I'm excited to hear what people are thinking after seeing this. Aaron, what do you think? Oh, I think you're muted.
I was saying, hey everyone, I'm curious to know that I saw the one UTXO in the wallet address. Would that be considered like the Genesis UTXO of that new address, or how would one handle that?
That's interesting, right? It is kind of like all transactions going forward will be from this one, but I don't think it's not quite formally like a Genesis UTXO. That's when we start a blockchain. But it does need to be split up. Okay. And so you know, for an exercise, if anybody wanted to try building a UTXO like this or sending all tokens to your Cardano CLI address, you would see that it's frustrating to build a transaction with Cardano CLI that splits up all those native assets. Okay. Luckily, Eternal is going to handle that for us, because it'll take as input that single UTXO. It's the only choice it has, and then it'll balance the outputs accordingly. Yeah, like imagine trying to build this send native assets transaction though, because you would have to have all of those quantities and policy IDs perfectly arranged in your TX outs.
It's not easy.
No, that's why we're happy that these tools exist, right? You like imagine user adoption if everybody had to use Cardano CLI.
Yeah, I built some tools in Python to do the same.
Perfect. Jeff, oh, and Christopher, hey, welcome. We'll come back to that too. Jeff says, would a good compromise be having one default address per dApp or per set of related dApps, and users manually choose which identity to activate? That way it avoids mixing addresses that are supposed to appear unrelated. Yeah. Yeah.
James, is there a way to know if, say you have 3 addresses which are indexed from a root key?
Mhm.
Do you know from like block frost, you can say, oh, these are related addresses, or is it secret?
No, you can see it. Well, we would have been able to see it even better a moment ago. But query your eternal address on Cardano scan.
And that's this
It's
one
here. Yeah. And so you could just click into like at the bottom of this transaction.
PRLT.
Or here it is, controlled stake key. This is even better. Click on the controlled stake key.
Yeah.
And then there's a button that says view all addresses.
Oh, nice.
Can you zoom in a little bit again?
Oh, sorry.
And so this one, you see how there's a variety of addresses here. These are all yours from that eternal wallet, and you can see those transaction counts.
Yeah. That's good to know. Yeah, cool.
And Mesh can do this as well. We'll start learning about Mesh. Yeah, Jeff, regarding the stake keys, my question would be, is this a suggestion at the application level or for a user like to have their best practices interacting with applications?
Yeah, I guess I was imagining it as like a setting in the wallet, but I don't know.
I mean, right? If it's one wallet, no matter what, for now, it's going to have the same stake keys, right? And if you're using NAMI in the most trivial way, it'll be just that address. Of course, users can instantiate as many wallets as they want to, but I'm not yet aware of a wallet that like allows you to do that without creating a new set of keys each time or mnemonics each time.
Yeah, the stake key thing seems super weird. Like it kind of breaks the whole point of having separate addresses, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. They don't have much utility as far as I can understand.
So
What's right here on the screen right now.
can you do different payment keys with the same stake key?
Yeah, right. So you've now seen how to generate a payment key pair and the stake key pair, and then to combine those to build an address, right? And so that's exactly what's happening here. Is it's all of these addresses are derived from the same staking key, but with different public key pairs.
Oh, there's different, these are different payment keys.
Yeah, if you looked at the payment key hash for any of these, it would be different for each one. And there's functions that will allow us to do that as well.
Right.
If you look up the same stake key, will you get all of those addresses under the same stake key?
Yeah, that's how we found it. So you can search any Cardano address, whether it's mainnet or pre-prod, right? You can click around in Cardano Scan until you find the stake key associated with it. And then like Martin just did, you can say view all addresses for that stake key.
You
And
get
you'll see all
always,
the associated addresses.
yeah. So your stake key is the nexus.
It is. Does that count as an
Can you-
identity? As, yeah.
Can you go in the opposite direction if I'm following this? Hey, everybody, it's Newman. Can you go in the opposite direction if you don't have a stake key and you just have one of these derivative addresses? Can you go up the chain, or to find the original stake key and find all the associated addresses? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, exactly. If you have one of these addresses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can search for one of them. You'll see the stake key associated with it. And then you can see all addresses for that stake key. What if a protocol parameter in an upcoming governance related Cardano improvement proposal adds a governance key to all of your addresses? And so people can find all of your associated governance actions as well.
That definitely changes the game.
I think so.
Meaning that we're I'm from the United States, and we typically have like a privacy around, well, money, and like our banking records aren't public, and in our voting, we have private voting. We go into a little private booth and et cetera, and so this would be different. This would be a change from what Americans might be used to, in my experience.
In theory, it doesn't really, you wouldn't necessarily be able to match the address with an actual person, right? It's still like the only way you would could do that is like you would really do some sort of forensic analysis and kind of like how they track hackers or something, but it would still be sort of anonymous, right?
That's super easy though. Everyone would do it automatically, like immediately.
I think with the network analysis tools out there, it's like Jeff said, it's probably a pretty rudimentary thing to do. If you have anywhere where you've posted a public address, say you were paid or you received funds or you paid someone from a wallet, it's a known quantity. But I follow you, Roberto. Yeah.
Sucks a little bit.
What about on the contrary, like creating a privacy kind of protocol that would do the opposite? I don't know how it would work exactly, but it would kind of block people from being able to see which addresses are connected.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Isn't that that's a great point. But isn't that what the whole like use a separate where the settings were in the terminal? Like it does, there is a setting, right? Or I don't know if I follow that as well.
What I mean is, like, if there was some kind of what is it, like SIP proposal, where they would take if you put the stake key, it would only give maybe one address instead of all of the connected addresses. So one would have a little bit more privacy. I don't know exactly how it would work, but
Right.
Just an idea that came to mind right now, based on the conversation.
Yeah, I just realized these these are long addresses, so they are all payment with stake addresses. Yeah.
You could see they have some common characters a little past halfway.
Yeah, because
well.
this is like a payment address, but then the payment with stake address is longer.
Mhm.
So as long as you see these addresses, they are always connected to a stake key. Right?
Possible to make a shorter address with just your payment keys. Right, but now you don't have access to staking on the network.
Yeah. Yeah, like this.
Is this issue part of what Midnight is supposed to be trying to fix?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in my mind, yeah.
How?
I don't know exactly, but I do remember when Hoskinson like spoke about it, and it, you know, it pricked up my ears because of the whole thing. It's just like, hey, look, you know, normally our records are private. Speaking from an American point of view, and that was to address it, but I don't know exactly the inner workings of how it's done. Other than that, there are privacy blockchains like you know, the one they always mention is Monero, and that Hoskinson said that this was a sort of a fun, it's like a key component to you know, yeah, a different and a better model, I guess. So, but I don't know the specifics, like what makes it, if it's different than Monero, if it's the same type, or if there are different types of privacy and how they do it. Good question.
Mhm. Jeff and I both just threw some background reading in the chat. And the news came out of Catalyst yesterday that the IOG team has been working on the voting sidechain, right? Really upgrading that, but maintaining secret ballots, right? So the idea is that we do want to have that part.
Yeah.
Midnight will play a role, and that will be interesting. And I recommend reading this Ergo Mixer article just to, if you've never thought about mixing, like that's a really nice way to see how you're understanding UTXOs. But we also have it really close to home in the assignment for module 103, which everybody has the option of opting out of, okay? In this assignment, you're given the choice of associating a JSON file in a Git repository with your contributor token. Now it's a pre-prod address and it's a pre-prod token, but the real purpose of this assignment is to open the conversation of whether we want to do that, and if so, how, right? Under what constraints? Personally, I'm okay with adding some personal information to this particular pre-prod address. And I think I would want to make a new wallet, right? If for this kind of interaction, if I was going to use a system like this at scale. But at some point, whenever we talk about identity, you eventually will connect that identity to an address on a blockchain. And everybody's got to start thinking under what parameters, right? What will you be satisfied with when you connect any sort of personal data with any particular address?
James, I'm not getting this last one because, of course, it was sent to the wrong address and then back, right?
Right on. So now you got to create the association between your index 0 address and your CLI address.
Oh, so I do the round trip another go.
Right, right.
Right.
James, is the Ergo Mixer sort of like what Tornado Cash was intended to be?
I don't remember how Tornado Cash exactly works, so I'm not sure. Yeah, if anybody's familiar with that.
I think I don't know the details, but I think it's a like a sort of a Zcash like zero knowledge pool thing. Everybody sends transactions into the pool, and then you just prove that you sent a transaction in order to withdraw, but the two aren't connected.
You know why they came out for them so hard?
I think just because it actually works, like any privacy thing that works gets
Yeah.
hated. Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's such a good thought experiment to think about, what does a UTXO based mixer work? That's a fun one. So Nikhil, did this solve your problem, you think?
Yeah, I
Mark-
think this would solve my problem.
Cool. One thing we could do is we could look at the source code for that little form that Martin was just showing us, to understand a little better why this is happening. And this would, it's actually, it's an interesting lens to think about the development of tools like Mesh, because the Mesh team is aware of this problem. But there's not a great answer to it yet. That you guys can actually, so the source code for the website where we're taking the course, you can investigate that. And Martin, if you're willing to navigate, you can keep driving if you want to, or I'm happy to take over.
Yeah, maybe it's better that you. I think we'll get lost there.
I just want to take a high level look at this. And next week, you will start to really use the front end template. Actually, and just in the chat, just because I'm curious, if you have JavaScript and TypeScript or React experience already, can you just give a thumbs up in the chat, or just with the icons, and use a different like if you've never done React before, I'd like to know that too. We're just going to take a gentle first look here at the front end.
Should I stop sharing or?
Yeah, thanks, Martin. I'll jump in here. All right. So that's a component in module 102. And I forget where I put that. Was this assignment? Right? I just forget what that was called. A check address has contributor token. All right, so that one's pretty straightforward. Let's start there. Where is that coming in from? Right. All right. So don't worry too much about syntax if you've never looked at JavaScript before. Okay, I want to just think about some high level concepts of what's happening, and we'll start jumping into this over the next few weeks. Okay, right here, this is a query to the blockchain. And again, don't worry about the syntax, but what is it doing? It's getting some UTXOs at an address. And so what do we need to know about those UTXOs? Well, I want to know those at an address, right? So you've seen this on Cardano CLI, how to query an address. And what we're able to do is something a little bit more powerful, which is say not just the address, but only UTXOs at that address with a certain policy ID. Okay, and that's a really nice thing to be able to do. Give me all of the UTXOs at this address that have this token in them. So then there's a form, right? Down here, there's a form label. It says enter the address. You should recognize this from the front end. And the user can usually, right, they enter it, they copy and paste it. And that gets saved as the Cardano address in question. Okay, so formic values Cardano address is coming from the form library we're using right here. And if I search the document for this right here, I can see another place that that formic values Cardano address is used. In particular, it's used in this query when a button is clicked and it passes those two parameters we were just looking at in the query up here, all right? What does it need? It needs an address and a policy ID, just like is specified here. And if any UTXOs are returned, in other words, if the length of the array is more than 0, we say, okay, that address must have one of those tokens. And if the length is not more than 0, then it says, it doesn't hold one. And you can change the color accordingly. We can make it green here, and we can make it yellow here. All right, so how do you feel about this? I don't know if that was too much all at once, or if that was kind of a little bit reasonable. What questions do people have?
I actually have a bit of a problem with this one, and I wanted to ask: does the order in which you do the instructions on the module matter? Because I think I did the send the split UTXO first, and then I did the send the PBL to the CLI wallet, and it doesn't clear, even though I can see it in my Cardano scan that I have the transaction with the split UTXOs, but it doesn't seem to recognize it.
Oh, that's really interesting. Okay, actually, that might be a bug, and that would be interesting to try to find that. So this, I'm assuming this form works though. This one, if you query an address where a token is, this should work. But then if you send the token away, it no longer does. And that's one concept I'm hoping people get, is the distinction between UTXOs, which is your current snapshot, and transactions, which gives you a historical record, right? I can look at the UTXOs at an address right now, or I could look at the historical record of the transactions on chain for any address or for any token or for any stake key, etc. Now, so we can look at the other query, but I'm not going to do that yet. Let's jump to Roberto's question, because this is interesting. So on the assignment, it's this assignment. There's a component that says check associated wallet. Okay, and that's built here. Check associated wallet is in the Cardano directory. So let's find the Cardano directory and check associated wallet. And this thing breaks mastery status down into 3 separate parts: a CLI wallet in the form of an address or just a string, and a Boolean, true or false. Were you successful, true, or not yet, false, on each of the 2 transactions in the assignment? And Roberto's question is, okay, does the order that you make these transactions matter? And my answer is, I'm not sure yet. It might. So let's go find out.
Oh,
What do you think, Newman?
I was just I had a I was like, okay, yeah, let's find out. I'm also curious, because if transaction 1 is written because it was the first in time, then it may you know, like how are those transactions written?
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. I might have done something lazy when I made these queries and only looked for the first transaction instead of filtering by certain rules. And that's what I want to try to find out. Because if I just like Martin was looking in his Eternal wallet at those different address indexes, 0, 1, 2, etc. When we look at a list of transactions, you can refer to them by their position in the list, 0, 1, 2, etc. And so if I did something lazy here on the first implementation, we're going to catch it. So basically this pattern right here, let's go back to this is kind of a simpler initial view, but I just want you to notice this pattern in between these curly braces. So I got these blue curly braces on line 99 and 108. And in between them is a question. Is there data? This is the shorthand for saying, hey, is there data? And is the length of the list of UTXOs bigger than 0? Right? So is there data? And if so, is there a list of UTXOs? Question mark. Okay. If yes, do the thing in these parentheses. All right. Answer to this question, yes, do this. Otherwise, do this. So yes, turn the box green. Yeah, celebrate. No, turn it yellow. Doesn't have it. Okay. So you're going to see this pattern all the time. Question mark, parentheses, colon, parentheses. And we're going to see it right away when we do this check associated wallet. We now have these 3 conditions, okay? CLI wallet, success 1, success 2. Now these ones are obvious. These ones are both Booleans, true or false. That's an easy yes or no. But strings are what's called truthy as well. Like if there is a string, it's true. And if there's no string, or if it's just a string of length 0, it's false. Okay, so a string can serve as an answer to a question, yes or no. And that's what we see down here. It says mastery status, CLI wallet, question mark. This is yes if there's a string there, there's an address for us to look at, and it's no if not. If yes, what do? Show the address. If no, we say, oh, we can't find that address. Okay, so there's the pattern there. And then we do the same thing for the transactions. TX1 question mark, show this or this. TX2 question mark, show this or this. But where's the actual test, right? This is just showing us what happens if CLI wallet or success 1 or 2 are true. But it doesn't show us how those values are actually defined. And that's a good thing. We typically try in a project like this to separate what we're seeing right here on my screen, which is kind of the UI that renders on the page, right? Here's all the text that's in those components, et cetera. And we try to separate it from the logic of defining whether these things have values or are true or false. And that all happens in this case in a prop. This is where we start going too deep. So basically, I just want to show you that all this information is passed to this check associated wallet component, this thing, this object. It's called a component in React. So let's go look for where that's actually called in the first place. It's at the bottom of this assignment page. So this is not a very long file. It's only 22 lines. And this is the page where you can see that entire long assignment 102. This part right here is all the documentation. And then this is the mastery object at the bottom of the page. And this is where the logic, and that's the thing we were just looking at. Now, still, that doesn't answer the question, well, where did that mastery status come from? Okay, well, that was passed to this component. And you can read about React. If everything I'm saying right now makes absolutely no sense, this is your entry point to starting to think in terms of how components are built on a web page. And you will see this in action in a simpler context in the new module. But I happen to know that this component is called from a page in module 102. All right, now this has some logic in it. All right, and down here, this is rendering everything in module 102. Okay, so when you click on the sidebar, you're choosing links that are associated with each of these right here. And if you click on lesson 102.1 in the sidebar, what component does it show? It shows this one. And if you click on the next one, it shows the next one. Okay, so this is how we kind of handle that high level navigation. But notice that in this presentation right here, there's none of the details, right? I have to click into each of these lessons to see those details. Now, these components right here are really simple. There's no properties, right? Or in other words, additional information we're sending to this lesson 102.1. It doesn't need to know anything about the users, about what's going on, because it's just showing you some stuff, a lesson, right? But these assignments are interactive. And so we want to pass some information to those. Now where's that coming from? This mastery right here is what we're passing along. And that's all defined up here. Okay, so here's a bunch of logic. There's no text, right? This is not what's showing on the page. This is what's happening to decide what shows up on the page. And yeah, let me drop before I forget. This is for anybody who wants to follow along or start playing around, I'm putting the repo in the chat. And you'll start to get like a simpler version of this repo next week. And you'll have the option of building it yourself or just getting a copy where some basic plumbing is set up. And then you'll get to start playing with it. All right. Yeah, right. So here's some data, right? What is lucky number initially? Oh, it's 5. Right? Now, some people have updated it, and we would like to know when they have, and all of that logic is here. But I wanted to figure out why. I wanted to figure out if the order of these queries matter. So let's see. Here's a lazy one right here. This is an example of that laziness I was talking about. I'm using index 0. I'm just saying, give me the first thing in the list. I'm doing it again right here. Give me the first, give me the first transaction in the list. What if it's not the first transaction? Then it's not going to find it. Okay, so this would be a good example, I think. Roberto, can you throw the address in question into the chat?
Yeah, just a second. I have it right here.
All of this is because it's just not behaving the way it should with these mastery checks.
Right.
Okay.
Because this is a quick and dirty implementation. And now we get to let's improve this thing.
Yeah.
Let's make it more dynamic, because obviously if my goal is to only look at the first transaction in a list, then I'm discluding anybody who's ever made a transaction before joining this course. That's not a good idea. But we want to look a little more closely at this. And right, like the assumption here is that people are making this address for the first time, but we can't necessarily lean on that. Now, sometimes you will have a query that you assume will return a list of length 1, right? And in that case, maybe you want to use index 0 because if the query returns more than 1 element, something's wrong, right? And now you can think about that edge case. But I'm assuming this is all happening because there's a better way to handle this. Let's see.
I put the address in the chat.
Cool, thanks. All right, so I'm going to move over here. Well, let's just look at this one more time. Data query 1 is defined here. And it uses a query called this. And did you said it's the 2 transactions? Is the CLI relationship turning green?
Everything except the split UTXO turns green.
Oh, okay. So only the split UTXO. So this is the one we want to look at. Okay. The word lazy here is, I think it's funny. It just means that you don't do the query until the user does something, like press a button. Okay. So there's another version of this that just says use query, which just happens when a page is loaded. And use lazy query is just what allows us to wait for something to happen. So we wait for these other queries to come through, or for you to press a button there in the documentation. And let's look at this one. Now, these queries are also just defined in a different file, right? Separating concerns makes our code a little bit cleaner. And so over here, I can find this one, split TX from CLI address. And what I'd like to do is try this query right here, but I'm going to copy it and I'm going to move it over to the browser. This is provided by GraphQL. And if this is the first time you're seeing this, don't worry, there's going to be dedicated learning targets about this, but I figure it can't hurt just to take a look at this together. What we can do is we can test queries right here in the web browser, and we can see what they return. And we could see, first of all, we could diagnose something like we're trying to do right now. Or you can just build queries and see what they return, see if you like them. And this is GraphQL. This has become a really popular tool among front-end developers over the last 5 years or so. I need one variable. I need to define the CLI wallet address. And so I can do that down here. I'm going to type CLI wallet address. It has autocomplete because it's reading from up here. And I'm going to set this equal to the address that Roberto just shared. So if you've ever heard like about Dandelion or GraphQL, but not seen what, for example, it's providing, this is our first example, right? So this is provided by Dandelion, but it's the GraphQL that anybody can run. Okay, this is open source software provided by IOG. Anybody can run their own GraphQL server, but it takes some work. It's inconvenient. And that's why Dandelion just provides it for free so we can play around with it without using all of our time. All right, so let me throw that address right here and run this query. Let's see what we get. All right, that looks like more than one transaction, doesn't it? It's a whole bunch of transactions. And they keep going, right? So this is exactly why a mistake was happening. Okay. And so, yeah, there's probably one in this list, but it's not the first one. This would have been the first one. And clearly this doesn't satisfy the rule we were looking for, which is that it sends 3 outputs to itself with 5, 15, and 25 ADA. Right. So that's why it's not working for Roberto. Let's see if we see it If we go down a little bit more. How's this make everybody feel that we can just look at this? All right, so now I'm not finding it by just looking for it. Yeah, I would rather use a computer. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
You see, as soon as I said it, right? And it wasn't 5, 10, 15, 25. Okay, so here is the UTXO in question. Certainly does exist. But yeah, it's not the first item returned in the list. That's really cool. By the way, what is this list? Well, it's a list of transactions, each of which has a hash, right? And it's all the transactions where there was at least one input and at least one output to and from the same address, right? Where inputs, outputs, address equals this, address equals this. It's the same one. It's the one we input down here. And we're not actually asking for that much information. One of the things that's incredible about GraphQL is I could add other stuff right here and get more information about each of these transactions. For example, let's just do a simple one. So far, I'm asking for the hash and just the outputs. But of course, I could ask for inputs. But that's complicated. Let's just do a simple one like included at, right, the date. And I'm going to run the same query, and you're going to see that the results over here change. Now they have the hash and the timestamp. Cool. Okay. And so you'll learn more about how to play around with this. But what I'm most interested in now is fixing our code. So let's make this incrementally less lazy. This is fun. Let's see. Data query 3. We say take that data. If the query happened and the list of transactions is longer than 0, which we just saw it was, and there's a CLI address, do some work. What do we do? We're going to take that data and we're going to filter the transactions, and we're only going to look at the outputs. We're only going to look at the transactions that have an output that has a length of at least 3, greater than or equal to 3. So that's already going to filter out a bunch of the options. That's good. And then for each of those, we're going to try to find, this filter should work. Oh, now I'm curious because this is good. That's TX1. Oh, wait, did you say TX2 wasn't working, or the split one wasn't working?
Split UTXO. Yeah,
Ah,
I think that's the
okay.
second.
This is a good filter. Why isn't it working? Okay, that's interesting. We might have to look. Okay. And the other two are lighting up green.
Yes, they are.
Sorry, what does it mean to light up green? Like in this context?
I'll show you. Yeah, good. Good question. And actually, Roberto, are you willing to share screen for a few minutes?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, let's take it over there and show lighting up green. But then also, I'm curious. I'm going to do a little digging over here too while we first take a look at that.
Can you see my browser?
Yep, looks good.
All right, so everything should work because my PBBL token is in my NAMI wallet. So this one's TXO, and okay, so this is here.
Okay. So what we mean when I say lighting up green, I just mean these yellow stripes turning green to say, yeah, you have a CLI address. You sent the PPBL token back. That's address. Oh, I figured it out. Okay, this is cool. This is good. Sorry, I had to think about that for a second. Here, do you mind if I share again?
Yeah.
Okay. If just in case I haven't said it before, I too am still pretty early in my React journey. I've been studying it for like a year and a half now, so still learning. But this is definitely a half lazy solution. Check it out. So this part is cool. This was good. This says, look at that list of transactions and grab, filter, right? Keep all of the ones where outputs has at least length 3. So far, so good. That's good. The problem is, then we were going through this resulting list, right? We call it has 3 outputs. Use it again right here. And then say for each item in that list, for each of those transactions, check 3 things. Check if there's an output with 10 ADA, 10 million lovelies, and check if there's one with 15 million lovelies, and check if there's one with 25 million lovelies. And then set this truth value to the truth, to whether or not all 3 of those things are true, right? So basically this says if you can find something, this is true, okay? So if all these 3 things are found, we set that value and we set it in the mastery too, okay? So the value of success TX1. The problem is this would only work if the success transaction was the last item in the list, because it's going to run this check on every transaction that has at least 3 outputs in it. And so there's a split second right there where actually this probably is true, but it doesn't last long enough to render our UI green, right? Because then it looks at the next item in the list and it's false again, and it finishes up that way. Okay, so this is not going to work. What we want is if it ever is true. This is a logic problem now. If
James, is it a coincidence that it's 5 ADA there, or does that have to do with the collateral at all, or it's just
where?
The 1 million Lovelace, and then the 1.5 ADA and the 2.5 ADA? Does this have anything to do with the collateral, or not at all?
Oh, good point. No, these are just arbitrary numbers, and they could have been anything. No, so in the assignment, the assignment was to build a transaction where you have 3 outputs to yourself, one with 10 ADA, one with 15 ADA, and one with 25 ADA.
Okay.
And that's what this is checking for. All right, so this check instead, it doesn't have to say just once. We don't want to do this every time. We want to, let's just filter again. So I'm going to, instead of running through and doing this every time, I'm going to filter out the UTXOs for which all of this is true. And so for each is called a void function. It doesn't change, it doesn't produce a new piece of data. It just does some things. It just has side effects. But filter produces a new item. And we'll call this new one has 3 correct outputs. Okay, so now we have a new list of transactions that meet this filter right here. So I'm going to close that function. And then we'll say now we're going to set the truthy value of this to just whether or not this new list right here has the 3 correct outputs. We'll do the same thing. Yeah, that has to be, the length of that has to be more than 0. It has to be a non-zero list. And then we'll do the same check here. But this doesn't solve the problem fully yet. Yeah, now we just want to say this, we want this to filter if just all 3 of these things are true. We don't care what they are. So that this is just 3 rules. I think this will work. That's fine. That means I gotta finish this thing over here. All right, now I'm really sorry about this, but this is live coding. I need to just finish off another change I was working on so I can push it successfully. And then Roberto, you can test this, but I think we can come in before the deadline of the end of this meeting. I was just working on the distribute transaction, and there's a few variables that are not defined yet. I just got to define those real quick. So like line 334, this selected project and select, yeah, successful.
Can you just run npm run dev to just run it from your local instead of pushing it to the build?
We need to connect it to your wallet.
Oh, correct. Yes. Okay.
You can send me your keys. You could trust me.
Yeah.
Real quick, let's grab this over here. I already built this once and just want to copy and paste if I can. So I want to define selected. Oh no, I don't need selected project though. That's why. Let's just do this. And line 349. Handle commitment. This is gonna be. And review. And cool. All right, if that doesn't work, I'll fix that part later. I want to see if, and I should run yarn build first just to set a good example. Lots of coming attractions here. I hope if you're overwhelmed, you're not discouraged, because we're going to touch a lot of these concepts one at a time. And I appreciate the chance to do a little hot fixing.
James, why you
Yeah.
use yarn instead of NPM? What is the difference, benefits?
I'm not well versed in precisely what the benefits are. I was just told enough times by people who I trusted, hey, use yarn.
Okay.
And now we're starting to hear, hey, use Dino instead. If anybody wants to chime in, if you are well versed in that, I would love to understand that better.
Yeah, don't be a first mover.
Okay, so the yarn build was successful. I use a tool called Vercel to just make this especially simple. So when I push this repo to GitLab, it triggers a deployment, and the live site will be updated in just a moment. So it's building right now. It's doing right now on a server what I just tested on my computer right here by typing yarn build. And I know it was successful here, so I expect it. Okay, so that if Roberto, if you refresh, but can we do this live to see the result together if it works? All right, blind remote bug fixing. We'll see if that was sufficient.
Drum roll.
Oh, it doesn't look like it.
Ah,
All right. No, okay. I was wondering. So okay. So now what I'm learning is that I was testing the limits of what the filter function would do for us. And it looks like it couldn't quite handle what I threw at it. So here's what I'm going to do. Yeah, okay. I'm going to push one more really quick fix and see if this makes the difference. And if it works, I'll show you what it was. It'll take just a moment for this to build. Anybody got questions? Thank you for spending the time like this today.
I just wanted to share how thankful I am. I'm feeling like so much gratitude right now for this community and Gimbal Labs and everything, because I'd be so lost in my life coding journey, and just like being able to be here with all of you, it's just the awesome feeling. So thanks. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
How do we say your name? I haven't met you before, but yeah, likewise. Then thank you for expressing that. I'm feeling the same way.
Yeah, my name's Erez. It's pronounced like Arizona without the ona. It means
Okay.
cedar tree of Lebanon. It's a
Oh.
Hebrew name.
Oh, nice. Erez.
I'm actually here in Israel right now on vacation with my kids. So, but I'm
Oh.
usually based in Sweden. Yeah, and nice to meet you all, Newman.
Nice
everyone.
to meet you, for sure.
Whoops. Hold on. Refresh one more time. Try that one more time. Okay, I really broke it this time. That's good. Oh, I know why. Okay, one more thing then. Watch this.
I think of just our grounding first principles. Students can make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. Like we're modeling that. It's really cool to see the bug problem solving, troubleshooting example, to watch other people do it. It's something that is really important when we learn these things, especially us out on the edges of innovation, that things do take time, and like it, and I think like what Erez is talking about is like, yeah, it's really cool to see people go through this and to not have to feel like you're alone and doing it. It's just, I feel very, very grateful for this.
Thank you. And at 100% go. I'm just so grateful to know that too, because I feel the same. Like just to get to practice out here together. This is.
Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity.
And you doing it out on the stage it's got to be a little grippy. I mean, I can barely pronounce my name, out in front of people. I can only imagine. Like I just finished watching the NCAA basketball tournament. And just watch like sports and athletes and stuff, and how they can do it out on stage. I'm here in New York City, and all the theater work and Broadway, and people get up and like, wow, it's just something. And each of us is sort of, there's an opportunity, even for a coder to express themselves and be out in public. So it is a skill, and we can all learn it. We all learn it together.
You sound like you're doing pretty well at the moment anyway.
Me personally, yeah. Well, I mean, but it takes a ton of practice. It takes a ton of practice. I think a lot of it is just taking and giving up on any kind of decorum, or becoming, like giving up on shame and stuff. It's just like, all right, whatever.
I had a baptism of fire when I was at school. For some unknown reason, they decided they were going to make me head boy. So at speech day, I had to stand up in front of the whole school and introduce all the dignitaries and stuff. And it was, yeah, if you can imagine a 17, 18-year-old standing up in front of all his peer group and all his teachers. And from that point on, I've never had a problem speaking in public.
Yeah.
Respect. And it's really cool too that there's so many people from all over the world connecting here together, and yeah, it's a nice example.
Yeah. The internationalness is really cool. All the different time zones and languages and cultures. Yeah, it's really cool.
I would like to add that this is my first PPBL live coding session that I'm attending. I'm really glad to see everyone struggling or accomplishing in the same boat. Good to be here.
Yeah. And yesterday, yesterday we were in breakout rooms, and it was remarkable because, here we've focused on one problem, but yesterday when we were in the breakouts, like we had smaller groups and we went through different problems. I can only imagine in the other, I was just in one, and there were maybe, I think there was three or four other folk. And then actually a different group kind of came in and we sort of talked it over with them. It was really, really nice, interactive, where we're sort of following along and sort of presenting, or being the audience and sort of watching. But then the other, we kind of brought our own problem and worked through it in the smaller, so it's like not up in front of the whole school, but just with your buddies, which makes it easier, like it's the transition. It's like going from either isolation or to like in front of a big group. But then, when you're just with like 2 or 3 other folks, it eases it. And it's a nice balance of things.
Learning to code makes you make peace with learning to fail a lot, but it's always nicer to fail when you're with others. When you're failing by yourself, sometimes it gets horrible and frustrating, but when you're surrounded by people, you just get a lot more sets of eyes and a lot more heads thinking about it. And it just feels so comforting, even if you can't work it out. It's much nicer.
Right.
And often from that space, that's where one gets help and assistance, and
There's so much more to learn when there's a group of people actually looking at the same set of problems.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And one thing to relate in that sort of the same vein, because one of the people that I was in my small group with yesterday was going through the module before the one that I had just done, and I was able to like really give some assistance to him. And so while I was stuck on my level, and felt bad, I mean, relatively, I was able to help the other person and felt good. So it's like a natural balancing sort of function, to help, to look for support and then receive support. And maybe it was you, Roberta, that came in and then gave us some help and some encouragement as like kind of an older brother type of thing. Like, oh yeah, okay, we got, this and this. That was cool.
Fun. Teaching others is actually my favorite way of learning. In uni, that was like I aced exams when I helped others like explain things. Later for me, it was just so much easier because you force yourself to, how do I explain this? And I don't know, there's a process where it clicks and you just internalize it so well. I love it.
+1. I just pushed the 4th hotfix, and this is actually fascinating. So I've been pinging Roberto in the background. This is number 4, and it's fascinating, right? So think about this. I would like to have a local testing environment, but to create the precise scenario that Roberto has right now would take a little while. Oh, I don't think that built yet. Yeah, hotfix number 4 coming in soon. But this is right, like I'm still mastering the syntax of certain JavaScript array functions. And so usually I would sit alone like testing this, but it's wonderful to be using this specific scenario and just be tossing code back and forth. All right, let's see if this works.
I'll just refresh real quick one more time.
Come on, load, baby. Not an error yet.
My fingers crossed.
Ding. Darn it. Okay. So we're really close. And what I've been doing is each of these, I just made a series of commits that have the names hotfix 1, 2, 3, 4. And so everything I'm trying to figure out right now is archived that way, and I'm like 1 parenthesis off or something, and it's really frustrating. But I'll be sure to add this. This is perfect source material for module 201.
Yeah.
I just one point to make. Wouldn't we be requiring to a hard refresh on the browser just in case there was some stale JavaScript files not reflecting the changes which James was doing? Generally in Chrome, you can do that by Control-Shift-R rather than a Control-R. So in case
No,
James had
what?
probably solved the problem.
What was the command?
Control-Shift-R for Chrome, I'm not sure. Guess this is Brave or something, Brave browser. Let me check.
Got it. Worth a try.
If this works. Oh, ah.
There.
Oh, man. No, this is fun. And I promise to report back. Because it's like a silly little bit of syntax and just playing around. But also this is this is why those lazy solutions are so appealing. Oh, let me just go for index 0. I don't feel like figuring out the precise logic right now. I'm just going to take the first one in a list. But it presents, as we start building more tests together, there's going to be really cool chances to practice this. A few people from the previous iteration of PPBL started thinking about this concept of a Plutus puzzle. And so this assignment right here is just kind of a first test example of how we can combine on-chain queries with automated checks for mastery, right? Like, hey, did you build this transaction? If so, can we assume that you got this puzzle done, right? And so building out from here, we're going to go past just, hey, did you send a split transaction, into things like, did you interact with this smart contract address in this particular way?
I'm wondering, as a thought experiment, if anyone has experience like using ChatGPT, for example, like when someone's stuck with at a code, like coding in the situation, like if you can ask ChatGPT like how to fix it, do you get good responses, or what are your thoughts on that?
In my experience, for JavaScript and TypeScript, it can be helpful if you know what you're asking for. Sometimes I feel like it starts BSing me if I start pushing it. It just gives me like, yeah, just do this, and it's not at all. But it's really good at explaining different concepts. It kind of breaks down to you what it's changing and why it's changing it. So yeah, I find it helpful.
Yeah, it's good at TypeScript and JavaScript because these are well-established languages, right? And so there's a lot of people who have done some great work. Martin.
Hey, yeah, I downloaded the front end and I tapped yarn, and then I get error. There's no scenarios. Must have at least one.
No scenarios. Ooh, can you send that one's I'm late for a meeting right now, and I want to give that one proper time. You're good at giving us cliffhangers for the next one. Really good.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so you're saying on the initial install, I've never heard that one, no scenarios. Can you drop a screenshot of that in the PPBL student chat?
Yeah.
That'll be a good one to look at.
Yeah, maybe I'm just doing something wrong because I'm doing three things at once. But I wanted to try and fix my own problem here. But
absolutely. Hey, so as you can see, the live deployment of PPBL is broken at the moment. So it's urgent that I fix it. I got to go to one meeting, And then I'm going to figure out, I'll let you know if I use ChatGPT to figure out where my parentheses are wrong. And I'll post a full report after we get this working for everybody to look at what now works. But y'all, thank you for this. I'm really enjoying this. I'm glad you're here.
Right on. Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
y'all.
Thank you.
Next
See you
time.
soon.
Thanks, James.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.